What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Hoopers Lounge podcast with Max and myself. We're nearing the end of March. We're arriving closer and closer to playoff season. Two teams from the Western Conference, the Thunder and the Spurs, have already clinched positions. And now is the time of the year that we're starting to see contenders separate themselves from pretenders. A lot of teams in the NBA right now are on, we'll call them heaters. They're on winning streaks, or they've won a lot of games in a chunk of games, we'll say. So we're going to analyze those teams this episode and decide whether or not these teams are truly contenders for the NBA title this year or if they're pretenders. Before that, though, a little bit of NBA news. And once again, we come to you with unfortunate injury news because Cade Cunningham, who a few episodes ago we just vouched for MVP, unfortunately suffered a collapsed lung and is out indefinitely, meaning he will likely be out the rest of the regular season and however long the Pistons playoff run is. Really unfortunate for one of the rising stars of the league, who I would say it's safe to say he ascended to superstar status this year. He's debatably a top 5 player in the league. And yeah, just an unfortunate way for a season to end. And because he's only played 61 games, he will not be eligible for the end of the year awards, which means Cade Cunningham is now out of the MVP conversation and he will not be included on the All NBA first team. So Max, I know you've been high on Cade Cunningham all year. This must have really hurt you to hear when it happened.
Yeah, it was brutal. I just want to confirm. You mentioned he's done for the year. I think he can come back, right, for playoffs. I think he's just done for the regular season. Is that correct?
It was indefinitely was the quote I read, which indefinitely usually means a while. In a collapsed lung, I don't know. To me, that sounded serious. It sounded like the kind of injury that would keep you out for a while. He could be back for the playoff run. I guess it's not officially ruled out with the usage of the word indefinitely, but I don't know. It doesn't seem likely to me. I think it's safe to say that.
Yeah. I think I heard something that they're optimistic to have him back for the playoffs. Hopefully. Again, you don't know what that means. That could all just be fake news to keep the Pistons on the minds of other teams in the East. But it's sad that he's not going to make All NBA. And two things are true when it comes to Cade, in my opinion. One, he undoubtedly, even though he's going to miss the cut, should be on the All NBA team because he's a top 10 player in the league. Like you said, debatably top 5. I think he's undisputedly top 10 this season. And so even though he's going to miss a couple games, he 100% should be on the ballot. That's the first thing I think. But second thing, I see people criticizing the 65 game rule. I really think it's worked this year for the most part. This is kind of just one of the downfalls of the rule when you have guys that get hurt like this and miss the cut. It's really unfortunate. Like Shea right now, the favorite. If he were to miss however many more games and miss the MVP, that would suck. Same thing with Wemby if that knocked him out of the race. But those are just kind of the cons to the 65 game rule. But we've seen the positives as well, with Jokic and Wemby playing a lot. So I don't know if the criticism's fair for the 65 game rule, just because of Cade's injury. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think the 65 game rule is doing its job perfectly. I mean, yes, Cade has been undisputed. I think Cade would have made All NBA first team this year if he would have met the games criteria. So it does suck that his great season is not going to be rewarded with that. On the flip side, Cade got hurt in Detroit's 69th game of the year, which means he had missed 8 games prior to that. And if you look at his game log, there are a good amount of back-to-backs that he just sat out the second game of just so Detroit could rest him up a little bit. If he doesn't take those cheat games off, if he plays 4 of those games, we're not even having this conversation and he's safely on the ballot. So I think it's doing its job correctly because we're talking about a guy who's playing 61 out of 82 games. That's missing 21 games. That is a quarter of the season. I'm not willing to give a guy who's missed a quarter of the season a spot on an All-NBA team over a guy who hasn't. I think that's a pretty safe thing to say, that a guy who's available more has made more of an impact this season. So while it does suck, this injury has prevented this great season from being rewarded. I hope that NBA players take it as a message as, okay, let's not take these rest games early in the year because we cannot guarantee our availability later. If we're healthy all year and our team's in playoff position and we can take a couple of rest games, yeah, we can take them here and there. But if we were hurt earlier in the year, like Jokic and Wemby, we have to play and play they have, and they're going to be contention for awards because of it. So I think the rule is doing its job perfectly. I like Adam Silver standing on his ground because the players I know are not happy that Cade Cunningham's going to be excluded this year. And I'm a fan of the rule. I think it's doing its job well.
Yeah, I mean, the rule itself is good, but I kind of disagree with what you said. 61 games of an MVP candidate is better than a full season of an all-star level player. That's just my opinion on the matter. Cade, yeah, he was having a great season. He was having an MVP caliber season. Great does not begin to describe the year he was having, and this injury really sucks to where whoever replaces him on the first team 100% deserves that, and whoever replaces that person on the second team deserves that. But you're going to have a guy on the third team All-NBA that probably should not be on there because of Cade's injury, and that to me is where we have a problem. Put Cade on the third. I know the rule is the rule, and I don't want them to change the rule just for Cade. But if they put Cade on the third team All-NBA, that to me I think would be a fair compromise because he didn't play the amount of games, but yet you're still rewarding him for being arguably a top 5 player in the entire league, right? That's what All-NBA is all about. And whoever gets that 15th spot now on the third team or whatever, because Cade is also not the only one. I'm pretty sure Giannis is not eligible for awards. Steph is not eligible for awards. LeBron is not eligible for awards. And Wemby and Jokic are on the cusp of not being eligible for awards. So Cade is not the only one where guys of lesser caliber are being rewarded just because they're healthy. I feel like health is important for sure, but when it comes to All-NBA and MVP caliber players, this is how you get the Supermax. This is how you're eligible for the Supermax in the NBA. And just because a guy was hurt for a quarter of the season, that to me, I can understand why the players would be upset about that. That's kind of what I'm saying. And there's levels to Cade. It's not like he was, a borderline third All-NBA team player. He was a borderline MVP winner this year. And that to me should matter, even though he's going to miss 21 games.
I agree with you, but also if you remember just a few years back, the discourse, there was so much noise surrounding the NBA around players not playing, even on playoff teams at the end of the regular season because they want to be rested for the playoffs. There was so much noise and so much negativity surrounding the NBA, and I think this rule has done great things to alter that. And if that comes at the cost of guys like Cade missing the All-NBA teams, then unfortunately I'm okay with that. It sucks, but I would rather have this rule that lets the guys play and make sure that we see the top talent play game in and game out.
Yeah, I hear you there. Quick question for you though. What happens in the future when a guy like Cade is healthy, right? And he's trying to make his case for All-NBA and MVP. And he needs to play the last 2 games of the regular season to be eligible for those awards, right? He can't miss any more games. And he goes down with an injury in the last game of the season before the playoffs. And his team's, the number 1 seed in the East, all the same things about this year. How are we going to feel about the rule then? I don't know. Because I think fans being mad that players are sitting to rest for the playoffs is idiotic and stupid. Because it's a business, and players need to be healthy for the playoffs to try and win a championship. That's what all these guys are fighting for, is championships. And to be upset because your favorite player isn't playing in game 80 of 82 while he's gearing up for a playoff run, that to me is not why the rule is in place. The rule is in place so that guys in the first half of the season don't take off games for no reason, right? For teams that are tanking, their star players still play so that they're eligible for 6th man of the year and comeback of the player of the year and, all NBA, whatever, right? All-star appearances, all that type of stuff. That's just my opinion on the matter. I don't think fans were mad. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm saying in my opinion as a fan, if the Warriors were resting Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler to guarantee themselves a playoff spot and a good seed and to make sure those guys were healthy, I would be happy with that decision. That would not bother me at all. Right? So I don't understand kind of the discourse there.
Well, the discourse comes from the business side, right? From a fan perspective, you are more likely to buy tickets to go watch a game if Stephen Curry and Jimmy Butler are playing in it versus if they're not. And that's what it comes down to the NBA. They're shelling out these $100 million contracts for these guys. They want them to play. Like the owners are spending a lot of money on these guys. They want them to play. That at the end of the day is what it comes down to. Yes, I agree with you. From a team perspective, you want championships. You want to win. Some owners understand that, and those are the best owners in the NBA. You know, Pat Riley kind of innovated the resting player strategy, and the Spurs did it too. They had the big three of Duncan, Parker, Ginobili. They started that whole trend of resting players. Then it became kind of an epidemic, we'll say, in the NBA, where every team was resting players, and then it became to a point that something had to be done. But resting players it's not like this is a new thing. It was innovated by Pat Riley with the Heat, and I don't know who the owner of the Spurs is off the top of my head, honestly, but whoever owns the Spurs.
Yeah, I understand that, but but teams are still going to rest players in order to prioritize a championship. So the new 65 game rule doesn't really take care of that problem. It incentivizes guys to play to be eligible for these awards. And my hypothetical question was, what happens when guys play for those awards but in turn get hurt for the playoffs?
But we also seen that before when these rules weren't in place, right? Injuries have always been a part of the game. Look at Derrick Rose. He won MVP, and then he got to the playoffs, and he suffered a freak injury, tore his ACL, and he was never the same. That was not due to having to meet a certain number of games to win MVP. Injuries happen. They're a part of the sports, and as much as they suck, it's a part of the game. It's a part of every season. It's a storyline of every NBA season we go along. So if Cade got hurt and say, yeah, game 80 of 82, yeah, you might blame the rule, but also that might have happened if he was completely healthy, right? It's a freak injury. Injuries happen in sports, and I'm not sure if you can necessarily point that directly at the fault of the rule.
Yeah, no, I understand, and that's why I said it was hypothetical, because something like this hasn't happened yet. I just understand the throwback on that and the crap the league would get from the players would be a lot. And I can understand, again, their outrage over Cade right now is totally understandable, because these guys, yes, they play against each other and they're competitors, but the amount of respect they have for one another between professional athletes is very high. And the last thing I want to say about the resting guys for playoffs is a lot of these guys' careers, and not just players, but coaches and GMs, a lot of their careers are directly tied to their postseason success, right? Like, no one cares what you did in the regular season. Owners, GMs don't care what coaches and players did in the regular season. It's all about what you do in the playoffs in professional sports. And we've seen guys lose jobs. Very good head coaches, very good players lose their job because they couldn't win the big one, right? We've seen that in all of sports. And I hope that this rule does not incentivize teams to prioritize regular season awards over postseason success. And I feel like an injury like this with Cade could lead us in that direction with the thrashback and the throwback from the players.
That makes sense. Moving on to a better piece of NBA news. Recently, on March 21st, in a game against the Miami Heat, Kevin Durant passed Michael Jordan on the NBA's all-time scoring list. KD now ranks 5th all-time in scoring. Huge accomplishment. And yeah, there's a good chance he could go up and pass Moses Malone for 4th place. Karl Malone for 4th place, which seeing Karl Malone slowly go down in NBA history is always a great thing. Max, any thoughts on Kevin Durant in this accomplishment?
Not really. I mean, he's one of arguably the best scorer of all time, just with how many ways he can beat you. In my opinion, he's the most efficient scorer of all time, and the ability to score 30 on 12 shots from him is absolutely insane. He is one of a kind. I don't think we'll ever see anyone like Kevin Durant ever again. And I honestly didn't know he was that high. Like, when I saw him pass Michael Jordan, I didn't know he was that high on the list. all time. I thought he was closer to like 10th. So it'll be interesting to see if he does pass Moses Malone, which I don't know how many points is he away from Moses Malone.
To check the list. I know 7th through 9th on the list, or that range of players, is all very close to each other. So that could be a reason why Kevin Durant jumped up the list so quickly. So let's see how far away he is from Malone. He's 5th right now, just past Michael Jordan. Sorry, he has to pass Kobe before he gets to Karl Malone. Rip Kobe. I am so sorry I forgot about you. But he's 300 away from Kobe, so he's probably not going to do it this season with about...
He'll 100%...
I think most teams have about 18 games left.
He'll pass him next... Does it count playoff points or just...
No, this is regular season points only.
Okay, so he'll catch him next year if he stays healthy. He'll definitely catch Kobe next season.
And then...
Yeah.
And then Malone is at 36,000, so Durant would have to play for another 2 or 3 years to... hit that
Malone.
Total, but I would not put that out of the realm of possibility.
So he'll probably finish ahead of Kobe then, 4th.
He absolutely will. 3rd is a possibility, and then Kareem and LeBron might be a bit too far in front. But yeah, like you said, one of the greatest scorers of all time. Glad he's making his way up the scoring ranks and getting the recognition he deserves.
Yeah, and he's been carrying the Rockets this year, offensively at least. He's been almost their entire half-court offense is Kevin Durant this year.
Which gives him the right to shit talk on Twitter.
Yes.
So, shout out KD.
Yes.
Shout out get off my Dickerson. All right, moving on to the Contender Pretender segment. We have 6 teams that have been on, like we said, heaters recently. They've won a large stretch of games, and we're going to talk about whether or not we think these teams have any chance at winning an NBA title this year, or if they are, hence the name, fake contenders, pretenders. And we'll start off with our hometown team, who is having their best season since Kemba Walker was a member of the team, the Charlotte Hornets, who are on a 5-game win streak. They recently had tied a franchise record, tied a franchise record with an 11-game win streak. The Hornets have been hot. I mean, they've been one of the most exciting teams in the league to watch, with LaMelo, Knipples, and legitimate Rookie of the Year candidate. Brandon Miller and Bridges are great 3-and-D pieces. So, Max, do you think the Hornets have any chance to make a run in the Eastern Conference this year?
No. No. And I say this with all due respect, they might not even make it out of the play-in tournament. Like, they seriously, legitimately might lose to Miami in the first round of the play-in tournament. I could 100% see that happening. If Philadelphia is fully healthy and they fall into the play-in tournament, I would think they would beat Charlotte too. So the Hornets are really good. They're really fun. But if they're having a bad shooting night, they're going to get destroyed. And
okay, well, hold on a second. Let's look at the play-in rankings. The Hawks are the 6th seed right now with a 41-32 record, and Miami is a 10th seed with a 39-34 record. These teams are separated by 2 games apiece. The Hornets are likely to miss the play-in altogether than they are to play in that 9-10 matchup.
Okay, well, I can't predict where they're going to be. I'm just looking at the standings as they are now. And if they were to match up with Miami, that's a coin flip game. I mean, Miami is just as good as Charlotte. That's a coin flip. And then if they beat that game, they're going to have to play one more and get into the playoffs. So, again, yes, they might be the 6th seed, and then they have to play the Knicks. Well, good luck with that. Or they're stuck in the play-in, and you're going to have to play Boston or Detroit. Hopefully, Cade's back.
Good luck with that. The Hornets just beat the Knicks. They
we know that Jalen Brunson takes his game to another level in the playoffs. Okay, the Hornets don't have a guy that's even been to the playoffs on their team, I'm pretty sure, other than Pat Connaughton, who might not even see the court for the Hornets these days. So I know that the Knicks, with home court advantage at the Garden, with Brunson and Cat and OG and Bridges, yeah, good luck with that. Good luck with that. That's a hard series to win. That is a difficult series. I think Mike Brown would be the better coach in that series too over Charles Lee. So there's a lot that has to go right for Charlotte to make a run. So the word contender, like the Hornets are amazing. They have exceeded expectations and they are a good basketball team. But let's not get it twisted. They are not a contender for the NBA championship this year. Let's just call it as it is. They are a great story and they are a good team. A good team. But good teams don't win championships. Great teams win championships. And the Hornets are not a great team. That is just my opinion.
I completely agree with you there. I honestly think I'm more down on the Knicks than I am up on the Hornets. And we're going to get to that in a bit. I want to hear what you have to say about the Knicks because they are a team that also are on a 7-game win streak before losing to the Hornets. I'm going to say right now, I think the Knicks are pretenders. I don't think they're legitimate. I want to hear what you have to say about them.
Okay, I think the Knicks are contenders. However, do you think they're better than Detroit without Cade?
I don't think they're better than the Hawks. I don't think they're better than the Cavaliers. I think
okay,
Detroit,
the Cavs. Okay, the Cavs is okay. I hear you there. The Cavs are really good. The Knicks are 100% better than the Hawks. Okay, they're 100% better than the Hawks.
Right now, I do not know about
in
that.
In a playoff setting. Yes, I think in a playoff setting, the Knicks would be better.
Soft. Look at the rebound statistics against the Hornets game. The trio of Colin Knippel, Brandon Miller, and LaMelo Ball out-rebounded the entire Knicks team.
Yeah, when the Hornets
by those three.
When the Hornets don't miss shots, how are the Knicks supposed to get rebounds? How's that supposed to happen?
The Hornets. It's not like the Hornets had an elite shooting night. They shot 53% from the field. That's average. Congratulations. That's what you should be shooting in the playoffs. The 3 players on the Hornets out-rebounded the entire Knicks team. That would not happen under Tom Thibodeau. This Knicks team is very different than the one we saw last year. With Tom Thibodeau, that Knicks team had a toughness. That Knicks team had an edge to them that allowed them playoff success. He got them to their first conference finals in 25 years. Then they fired him, hired a new coach who has lost that edge. This Knicks team does not have that same edge as last year, and that was so evident in that game against Charlotte. I mean, for those you're talking about, Hornets don't have any playoff experience. So why are 3 guys on that team out-rebounding your entire team with playoff experience?
It was one game.
That should not be happening. That's a knock on the coach. That should not be happening in any game. That's a knock on the coach.
You're acting like the Hornets are not professional athletes. You're acting like the Hornets are not professional athletes. Like, we just agreed they're a good team. And they had a great rebounding game.
A great rebounding game. They had an average rebounding game. The Knicks had an awful rebounding game, and it's been an issue all year. Look at the rebounding rankings. The Knicks are going to lose early in the playoffs, and it's going to be because they get dominated on the boards, and it could be to a team worse than them. The Cavaliers could be a team that easily dominates the Knicks on the boards and sweeps them out of the playoffs if they meet in the first round. Philadelphia has Joel Embiid. A healthy Joel Embiid will sweep the Knicks out of the first round. The Knicks are soft. They cannot compete in the paint. The Karl Anthony Towns is not the center that is going to lead your team to a championship. Mitchell Robinson cannot make free throws. He's a late-game liability. And Mike Brown, you want to talk about playoff experience? Tom Thibodeau had playoff experience. What did Mike Brown do? He most recently led the Kings to the first round. That's the only playoff experience Mike Brown has had as a head coach.
So assistant coaching is not experience. Assistant coaching is just not experience anymore. That still counts.
Trust a head coach with experience and an assistant coach
over
with
a multi-time champion. You'd rather have a great head coach over a multi-time champion. That happened to be an assistant coach.
A multi-time champion assistant coach. Why would you rather have an assistant coach than a head coach? There's a reason he's an assistant. Assistants do not know how to lead. You need to be able to lead a team. Some coaches had that, some do not. And the edge that the Knicks lost is
Quick question.
Tom was able to coach that team.
Perfect example is Mitch Johnson, who learned from Greg Popovich as an assistant, who won multiple championships. Would you rather have Mitch Johnson or a majority of the coaches in the NBA right now?
Mitch Johnson is a head coach. He's
But
not an assistant coach
but
anymore.
he was an assistant. Mike Brown was an assistant with the Warriors. Now he's a head coach. Yes, he got promoted.
If you're getting hired to follow the greatest head coach of all time, yes, I'm going to take you over the majority. That is an exception.
Steve Kerr.
Steve Kerr not following the greatest head coach of all time.
He learned under one of the greatest coaches of all time, Steve Kerr.
Yes. Okay.
And he got a promotion with the Kings and now with the Knicks, which I would argue is a promotion.
Started as an assistant.
Yes, but they didn't all have great legendary playoff runs like Mike Brown on the Warriors or Greg Popovich on the Spurs. Not everyone is equipped with that.
You just completely froze.
All I was saying was that not everyone has great playoff success like Mike Brown did with the Warriors and with Greg Popovich with the Spurs, right? Like a guy like Tom Thibodeau, you said he just led the Knicks to their first Eastern Conference. I think we could both agree they don't win the second round series if Tatum doesn't tear his Achilles. They don't even get to the Eastern Conference Finals if that happens.
Yes, they were up 3-2. They were up 2-2 with a 5-point lead in Game 5 when Tatum tore his Achilles. I think it's very safe to say they would have won that series even with a healthy Tatum.
So if Tatum's healthy and they lose Game 5, you don't think the Celtics could have won Game 6 and 7 and gone to the Eastern Conference Finals?
It's possible. You're saying that's probably going to happen? Hell no. You're saying a team is more likely to win 2 games, including a game away.
Assuming they won Game 5. I just watched the Timberwolves come back from 13 down with 2 minutes left. I know the Celtics could have came back down 5 in the fourth quarter and won that game and gone up 3-2. And he got hurt in the Garden, so Game 6 would have been in Boston. Yes, the Celtics probably win that series if Tatum doesn't get hurt. I feel like
that is an insane thing to say.
I don't think that's insane at all. And it was proven when the Knicks lost in the Eastern Conference Finals to the Pacers. If the Knicks were better than the Celtics legitimately, they probably would have beat Indiana in the conference finals because Boston was better than Indiana heading into the playoffs.
What? The NBA playoffs are about matchups. You can be the best team in the league, but lose because of matchups. The Cleveland Cavaliers were the best team in the East that whole year. In fact, they were a juggernaut in the East, won 64 games, but they lost to the Pacers because they were a bad matchup against them. It does not matter if you're the best team in the league because you could easily lose a 7-round series to a team that you're not matched up well against. Look at the Golden State Warriors. They weren't the 1 seed every year. The Houston Rockets actually beat them out for the 1 seed one of those years. And you know what? It didn't matter come playoff time because the Warriors matched up so well against the Rockets that they beat them year in and year out. It does not matter. Your status in the league as the best team in the regular season does not matter. The only thing that matters is the playoff opponent that you match up against. That Knicks team that year matched up a lot better against the Boston Celtics than Knicks team in previous years, and that is why they won. To say a team that was up 3-2 in a series, yes, the injury was unfortunate, but to say a team that was up 3-2 would have probably lost, like those first 3 games were a fluke, is just disregarding what they did in those first 3.5 quarters and those first 3 games before Tatum got hurt. It was that you just disincluded that entire series. Instead, Boston probably would have won the last 2 because they were the better team. You could say that about any team. If we're going to do that, just give the championship to the Thunder this year and get it over with. We'll just play the games out on paper. That's not what happened.
You're right. That's not what happened. I'm saying if Tatum played. I understand that's if he played. That's my opinion of what I thought would happen. The Celtics would have won that series, and Tom Thibodeau would have never taken the Knicks to the Eastern Conference Finals. Okay? That's just what I think.
If the Celtics were that good, why did they not win the first 2 games? Why did they let the Knicks get 2 games to begin with? And why
because the Knicks are good. They have good players, which is my exact point as to why they're contenders this year. It's the same roster, just a different coach. It's the same roster. It's the same core.
Made the team so much worse. The coaching matters so much in the NBA. You don't think
Mike Brown's development of a bench will help them in the playoffs? His development of a bench will help them in the playoffs. You don't think that's going to help at all?
Not as much as Thibodeau's edge. Not as much as Thibodeau's edge did. This Knicks team will not make the Eastern Conference Finals this year. You can mark it down. I predict that. This Knicks team will not make the Eastern Conference Finals.
Okay. I understand what you're saying, but that doesn't mean they can't make the Eastern Conference Finals. That doesn't mean they can't win the East.
I don't think they will.
Yeah.
I think they're more likely to get eliminated in the first round.
I don't think they're going to win the East either, but that doesn't mean they can't. And that's what a contender is teams that I could see winning the East, winning the finals. I can see the Knicks doing that. Yes, I can. Do I think other teams
Okay,
have a better chance? Yes, I do. And if the Pistons don't have Cade, I think that's advantage Knicks. If they don't have to match up with Cleveland or Boston in the second round, I mean, there's not that many teams better than the Knicks in the East. There's not that many teams better than the Knicks, especially if Cade is out for the playoffs. So by that logic, and with their core with a lot of playoff experience and a head coach with a lot of playoff experience, I see them as an Eastern Conference contender. And using last year's success to say why they're not going to make it this year doesn't make any sense to me. Just because their head coach changed, it's the same core. It's the same players. And that doesn't make any sense.
The head coach matters in sports significantly more than the core of players. The system that you run with the players matters more than the players at hand. There's a reason why the Warriors went from, a good team with Mark Jackson to a dynasty with Steve Kerr. It's the coaching. It's the system.
Yeah, because Steph Curry took a leap to be the unanimous MVP. That's because they signed Kevin Durant in free agency. The core players had a lot more to do with their success than Steve Kerr. Just like the core in Oklahoma City last year had a lot more to do than Mark Daigneault. Come on. What are we talking about?
Well, the core of Steph, Clay, and Draymond Green was a mediocre team in the Western Conference in 2013. 2014, they're winning a championship. That has to, and you know what changed that year? Yes, Steph took a leap. You know what else changed? They got a new head coach. That mattered.
And to say that matters more than the core of players taking a leap is absolutely absurd. Because Steve Kerr, again, great head coach, one of the best of all time.
They took a leap because of Steve Kerr. Because of his system. Yes, your individual talent, your individual training mattered a lot. But the system that Steve Kerr has allowed Steph to flourish both on and off the ball. It allowed Draymond Green to become a basically point forward, which Mark Jackson was never doing. Those Warriors teams were at their best when they were doing that. You're a Warriors fan. This should be first-hand knowledge to you how much Steve Kerr impacted this team. I cannot believe I'm sitting here having to explain this.
If you put any other coach on the Warriors of the level of Steve Kerr, because I said earlier that Steve Kerr is one of the greatest coaches of all time. If you put any other coach on the level of Steve Kerr on that team, Steph Curry is still the same player he is today.
We'll move on to a different team then. We covered the Hornets and the Knicks. We have one more team in the East. The hottest team in the league, arguably, the Atlanta Hawks, who have won 14 of their last 15 games. They're now sitting at the 5 seed in the Eastern Conference. They've leapt up from the 9 seed, which they were just a few weeks ago, and they are now 4 games back from the Cavaliers for the number 4 seed in the East. Max, Atlanta Hawks, contenders or pretenders?
Pretender. Because they're not... I don't see them getting out of the first round, similar to Charlotte. Cleveland will probably beat them in a 7-game series. I think the Hawks' best chance to win a first-round series is to maybe draw the Pistons without Cade in the first round. I know how you feel about the Knicks, so maybe the Knicks in your opinion. But if they match up with Cleveland or Boston fully healthy right now, that's probably a 5-game series. Boston might be a sweep. Cavs might lose 1 or 2 games. So, no, also, the Hawks, their first 6 or 7 games of this massive streak they've been on have been against terrible teams. Absolutely atrocious teams they've been just beating up on. Which, again, they're taking care of their business. Not, you play who's on your schedule. It's not their problem. But also, as someone who's watching it from the outside, I can understand that those teams are not as strong as some of the teams they could have been beating in this run. I know they beat Washington twice, Brooklyn twice, I think, Indiana, Sacramento, I think they've beaten in this run. These teams are just terrible. They're tanking, and there's not a lot of credibility I'm going to give the Hawks for beating up on the teams they should beat up on. I really like the addition of Kuminga. I think they have a really good bench. They're deep this year, which is good, and they'll be competitive. But you've said multiple times on this show that you don't believe in Jalen Johnson as the number 1. So I'm interested to see what you think in the Hawks as a contender or a pretender.
No, yeah, I think you hit it right on the head. I think they are a pretender, and I just went back and looked at the win streak. Yeah, they didn't beat a single top 3 team in the East in this win streak. They never matched up against Detroit, Boston, or New York. With that said, the Hawks do play Boston tonight in Boston, so this should be an interesting litmus test for how serious the Hawks really are as contenders. But yeah, like I've said all year, the Hawks' most recent game was an overtime win, a 1-point win against the Pistons without Cade Cunningham. In all due respect to the Pistons, I think they're a good team. I don't think they're a great team without Cade Cunningham. I think without Cade, this team is a play-in team at best. So I don't think a 1-point win over what I would call a play-in team is screaming contender. They've won 14 of 15, like you said. You're taking care of business. You can only play who's on your schedule, and the Hawks have done a great job of that, taking advantage of a weak portion. But am I ready to call them contenders in the Eastern Conference? Not yet. Let's see how they look tonight against the Celtics, who are fully healthy with Tatum back. Because right now, I'm only willing to give contender status to 2 teams in the East, Boston and Cleveland. Throw Detroit in there if Cade's healthy by the playoffs, but if not, I think it's going to come down to the Celtics or Cavaliers for the Eastern Conference end of the year.
Yeah,
represent.
I have the same teams as you: Celtics, Cavs, Pistons with Cade, and then I also have the Knicks because I think the Knicks and Cavs are kind of on the same level for me. But other than like anyone else in the East is not. I can't see them winning the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, but the Hornets and the Hawks, they're 2 great stories right now. They're 2 of the hottest teams, and the Hornets specifically. Watch out for them next year because they could be a team that takes a massive leap up the standings next year because all their core is young, and maybe they'll make a move this offseason now that they've seen how good this young core can be. We'll see. Anything else you want to say about the East?
No, let's move on to the West contenders because I know you're going to like what I have to say about these.
Western Conference contenders. We have another 3 teams, and we will start off with the current 1 seed, the Oklahoma City Thunder, who we've talked about the Thunder a lot. They were about a 500 team for a long stretch of the year of 2026, but they were recently on a 12-game win streak. Just had that snapped by the Boston Celtics in their most recent game, but they still sit at the 1 seed. They have a playoff spot clinched at 57-16 max. Are the Thunder contenders or pretenders?
If the Thunder don't make the conference finals, I'll be shocked. Like, there's no way they don't make the conference finals. So they're contenders. However, I will say this. They've had a lot of injuries this year, and a lot of nagging injuries could potentially derail them this year, which is one of the reasons why I don't think I'll be picking them to win the finals this year, just because of they don't have a lot of continuity this year with how many games they've been playing. But yes, they're a contender. I mean, they have the league MVP in Shea. No matter who you think it should be, they have the reigning league MVP and probably the back-to-back MVP in Shea. J-Dub's back. Hopefully he stays healthy. Chet's all-star level player. So, it's always good to have 2 all-stars on your team.
All-star.
And their bench is amazing. I mean, their bench is insane. The trio of Mitchell, McCain, and Isaiah Joe off your bench should not be fair. Like that should not be fair. For the reigning champs, might I add, nonetheless. So yes, they're a contender and they're the best team in the league at the moment.
If we're gonna say the Thunder are pretenders, then every team in the league is a pretender. I mean, this is the most contender of contender teams get. I will say though, it is incredibly difficult for teams to repeat in back-to-back years, and a lot of time, like you said, it is because of injuries. Yes, the Celtics were down in the playoffs last year, and and as much as I think the Knicks would have won that series, you can make the argument that the Celtics would have won with a healthy Tatum. I mean, it's not like I don't agree, but that's an argument that can be made, right? The Celtics may have lost because of injuries. The year before, the Nuggets came off of their championship, and they struggled. They lost this series against the Timberwolves because of injuries throughout their team. Guys were shaking up towards Game 7, and they got blown out by Anthony Edwards, and then he did his WWE celebration, which has become iconic. Shout out Anthony Edwards. But injuries, like you said, they do seem to play contenders a lot, and health is such a big part of the playoffs. It almost seems like the most healthy team is a team that emerges at the top every year. The Thunder were incredibly healthy last year, and if the law of averages has anything to say, I'm not sure we can bank on that same health being this year. And if the Thunder are going in with an unhealthy Shea or an unhealthy J-Dub or an unhealthy Chet, there are a lot of good teams in the West that could capitalize on that opportunity. The West is going to be an absolute bloodbath this year, and I think the Thunder are going to need to be fully healthy if they want to win this. But a fully healthy Thunders team, I would say yes, definitely contenders and arguably the favorite to win it all. But that good health is definitely something to watch because, like you said, injuries have been a storyline of their season thus far.
Yeah, and it's remarkable that they're still the 1 seed and have the best record in the league. Even though their starting lineups played like 8 games together this year. It's insane.
Also, that trio of McCain, Mitchell, and Isaiah Joe is legitimately one of the best shooting trios in the league, and they all come off the bench. Yeah. It's insane.
Like, to speak on their bench, too, the Thunder also have Caruso off the bench, so...
Yeah. Oh, and Nikola Topic, a lottery pick last year. So you can keep going. The Thunder are absolutely stacked once again. Even if they do have injuries, like we said, their bench, they could carry them through. Their bench now has championship experience. But, I mean, the West is an absolute bloodbath. I do think the Thunder are going to need to be in tip-top shape to emerge from it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Their biggest contender in the West might be the San Antonio Spurs, who are only 2 games behind them for the 1 seed. They also recently clinched a playoff berth, and they have won an insane 23 of their last 26 games. So this is a young Spurs team without a lot of playoff experience. I think only Harrison Barnes on the and De'Aaron Fox for 1 playoff series. I think those are the only 2 players with and Luke Cornett with the Celtics. Sorry, and there's probably a veteran at the end of the bench that I'm not thinking of. But the general young core of the Spurs has never played a playoff series in their careers. So, are you willing to call them contenders at this point?
Yes. And again, my definition of contenders is, can I see them winning the West or the championship? And the answer is yes. I can see them winning the West this year. Wemby, again, is insane. Their backcourt, to me, this is my own opinion. I think it's the best backcourt in the league if you include Dylan Harper. Him, Castle, and Fox are probably just an insane backcourt. I'm talking both ends of the court, right? I'm not just talking offense. I'm talking both ends of the court. They're the best backcourt in basketball, in my opinion. Shea and J-Dub definitely give them a run for their money, for sure. But J-Dub, by the availability metric, has had a terrible season. And this year, what I've seen out of Fox, Castle, and Dylan Harper off the bench, that trio is very good at basketball. And I talked about this before. The Spurs team is really good. Like, it's not just the Wembanyama show. It's not just like we'll talk about Luka here in a minute. Like, Luka feels like he is the Lakers, right? It does not feel like Wemby is the entire Spurs team. It feels like he actually has a strong supporting cast around him, unlike other top stars in the league. And so I want to give them credit where it's due. I really like Fox, Castle, Harper, what they bring to you on both ends of the court for me. And then Champagnie and Vassell have taken great steps as just 3-and-D wings. Cornette was a great pickup. I did not think he'd be this good on the Spurs. He's a great pickup for them. Their double big lineup with Cornette and Wemby is low-key diabolical when they run that for, a couple minutes a half. So, yeah, they're contenders. The experience is obviously the biggest weakness. But they have been – arguably they've been the best team in the West just because of their head-to-head dominance over the Thunder. You could argue they've been the best team in the West, even though their record is a little bit worse, because every time they play the Thunder, they just womp on them. So, the Spurs are contenders, and there's not much else I have to say about them.
Yeah, I thought your best backcourt in the league was a hot take, but now that I'm thinking about it, there's not really anyone I would take over. I think I would still take Shea in a combination of McCain, Mitchell, or Isaiah Joe. But that is close. And maybe Donovan Mitchell and James Harden, but what that duo was also severely lacking on the defensive end. Now, granted, they don't have a Wembanyama on the defensive end to make up for their defensive deficiencies, right? Castle and Harper specifically are allowed to be aggressive on the defensive end. They're allowed to gamble for steals because they know if they get blown by, they have the most impactful defender in NBA history waiting in the paint to swat away any attempt. I mean, players are, yes, you're right. It isn't the Wembanyama show. This Spurs team has been a lot better than I thought. And I was very high on the Spurs as a whole to start the year because of Wembanyama. But the team as a whole has matured and developed really well around him. I mean, Fox has been an all-star this year. Stephon Castle is going to be an all-star next year, or in very shortly. Dylan Harper is going to make all-rookie first team, and if he didn't have two great guards in front of him, he would be I think Dylan Harper's a starter on three-quarters of NBA teams. He's really good.
Yeah.
But with that being said, if the Spurs pass the Thunder for the 1 seed in the West, I think the MVP should go to Wembanyama. Because what he does on the defensive side of the ball is genuinely, it's unfathomable. It's hard to put into words the impact that Wembanyama has defensively. It is something that the league has never seen before. So if the Spurs make a deep playoff run, it is going to be because of their defensive prowess. And yes, Castle and Harper are great defenders. I want to give them credit where credit is due. But they're allowed to be great defenders because they have the greatest help defender of all time waiting in the paint. So I would like maybe Mitchell and Harden. I don't think they'd be as much defensive liability as what they have Wembanyama waiting in the paint, right? Mobley is a great defender. He's no Wembanyama. There's a stark difference between those two. So with that being said, I do think the Spurs are contenders. They've exceeded even my high expectations. Wembanyama is in the MVP conversation. I would say he's the co-favorite behind Shea. And I think if the Spurs are able to get that 1 seed, then the award should be his.
Yeah, no argument from me there. And I just want to go back to your point about Castle and Harper. I feel like Castle, his role, he's going to get a lot better, don't get me wrong. But his role on the team, I don't think is going to change much. But when they eventually offload Fox, I do think Dylan Harper's probably going to be the second best player on that team behind Wemby. And he's going to be an all-star, starter caliber player. That's how good I think Dylan Harper can be. He's filthy. And we've been talking a lot about the Cooper Flag debate in Rookie of the Year. And Dylan Harper, hear me here, should not win Rookie of the Year, but he's just as good as Cooper Flag and Con Knipple. If not better than Con Knipple. If not better than Con Knipple, in my opinion. He just happens to play on a really good team where his role is diminished.
If Dylan Harper was a starter, he'd be in these conversations.
And I feel like, yes, if Dylan Harper had been drafted to, I don't know, the Jazz instead of Ace Bailey.
The Nets.
Right? He would be in the Rookie of the Year conversation, in my opinion. So he is really
Completely
good.
Agree.
And it's a shame that he's on a really good team because we can't see how good he is right now. But once they get rid of Fox and hand the keys of the backcourt to Harper, him and Castle, over. It's over for the league. If they keep those three, it's probably over for the league.
Castle has the potential to be the most positionless player in the NBA. Castle legitimately has the future potential. I think he could guard 1 through 5 defensively, and he could play 1 through 4 offensively. I think he is that versatile in his game. And in this era of positionless basketball in the NBA, that is such an incredibly useful skill set for any team to have. So I think that's going to make Stephon Castle one of the most I'm not saying he's going to be an MVP conversation, but it's going to make him one of the most valuable players to a contending team. He's going to be one of the best role players / borderline all-star.
I feel like Stephon Castle is going to develop into who we thought Ben Simmons was going to develop into.
Great comparison. That's a great comparison.
I've compared Castle to Rondo, but I feel like Rondo is more of a point guard type, whereas you just touched on Castle's versatility, which I agree with you, which is why I would rather compare him now to a Ben Simmons type, where he's not going to be the best player on your team, but he's going to do everything you possibly need to win games. There's nothing he can't do other than maybe shoot consistently, but that will develop, right? That will develop. He plays defense. He can rebound. He can pass. He can get to the basket. He can make free throws. He can play on ball, off ball. He can guard on ball, off ball. Like, he is a great player. And Ben Simmons is what I guess, will see Castle develop into. Like, those all-star years for Ben Simmons, I feel like that is Stephon Castle next year and in 2 years. And hopefully, if he develops his jump shot, he'll be even better than Ben Simmons.
That's a great comparison. I didn't think of that, but I completely agree with it. Last team in the Western Conference that we're going to hit is the Los Angeles Lakers, who Max had a lot to say about in episodes past. But Luka Doncic has been absolute tear since his child custody case became public news.
True.
Child custody Luka is top 5 all time, debatably. In all seriousness, the Lakers have won 13 of their last 15. Has averaged north of 40 points in that stretch of games, and in addition to that, he has averaged north of 2.5 steals per game in those 15 games. So with Luka playing how he is right now, are the Lakers contenders or pretenders?
This one was so tough. I have them as pretenders right now, but as I'm thinking about it, I could see them winning the West, probably because they have Luka and LeBron. However, I still think I would take the Thunder, Spurs, and Nuggets as a more legitimate threat than the Lakers. So this one I'm kind of like in between, because I hate recency bias and I hate falling into the trap of recency bias. You and I both agree that this Lakers roster, from a roster construction perspective, is awful. It's terrible. Mm-hmm. And I know, I've watched enough basketball to know that DeAndre Ayton and Jackson Hayes is not going to get you to the NBA Finals, especially against Wemby and Jokic. And even, okay, as much as we shit on Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein, they're going to shit on Ayton and Jackson Hayes in a 7-game series. Like, so when you're talking about that level, and I didn't even mention Şengün, Julius Randle, Rudy Gobert, like, all these guys are better than what the Lakers have at center. And so Luka is playing really good, and I have two concerns. Is one, the roster construction that I just mentioned, and two, did the Lakers peak too early? I feel like we see some teams that peak like in the regular season and then they get worse as the season goes on, or they peak right now and then the Lakers will look great in the first round and then they'll play a team that's not their worst then, and you'll see it all fall apart. So to me, the Lakers, like, yes, I can see them winning the West. However, they don't feel on the same level as the other teams, if that makes any sense.
It does make sense. I agree. They're contenders, not on the same tier as the Thunder and the Spurs, but they are contenders. And like you said, their roster construction is terrible. We have been saying that all year, but that episode we were talking about Luka, I said he was the type of player that is good enough to carry you to a championship basically by himself. And we are now seeing that in the last 13 and 15 games. This Lakers team is still awful, yet they're winning.
True.
And it is solely and strictly because of Luka Doncic. He has been so good these last 15 games. He is now the third leading candidate for MVP. And I don't even think he was top 5 a few weeks back. That's how good he has been. He has legitimately changed this season for the Los Angeles Lakers. And if this is the version of Luka that we get in the playoffs, we cannot roll this Lakers team out, because this version of Luka is good enough to win a 7-game series against any team in the league. This version of Luka is the best player in the NBA. We have not seen this version of Luka for a whole 82-game stretch, which is why I do not think he's going to win MVP this year. But if we see this version in the playoffs, I'm not going to roll the Lakers out, man. They are that good. And they also have LeBron James, the greatest player of all time. Yes, he's 41, but it's still LeBron James. His playoff experience is going to matter a lot. So while, yes, all the concerns about the roster construction are still pertinent, that hasn't gone away at all. Their centers suck. They're going to get cooked by, the top 6 teams all have centers that will cook the Lakers in the playoffs. But the Lakers have Luka Doncic, and that is a game-changing factor. So the Lakers are contenders with Luka playing at this level. Like you said, not at the same level as the Thunders and the Spurs, but I'm not going to count them out in a 7-game series against anyone.
How would you compare them to Denver? Because I also don't think they're on the level of Denver as a contender.
I have them over Denver. I have concerns with Denver. And it's a lot of the same concerns that we have with Oklahoma City, just to a higher extent. Injuries. Jokic suffered a major injury and missed time for the first time in his career, and we have seen it affect his numbers, right? Jokic is not going to win MVP this year. And to be fair, he is still having an incredible season, right? But other players are having better seasons, and Jokic is also going against himself in past seasons. They're not going to give MVP to Jokic if he's been better in the past. So he's not in conversation for MVP this year. And it has been because he hasn't been as effective as he has in recent years. His efficiency has taken a hit. And Jamal Murray has taken that all-star leap that has been needed. But I also don't Jamal Murray makes an all-star leap every playoffs. I don't think it's going to be anything new there. We see that every year. And Cameron Johnson, Aaron Gordon, Christian Brown. How many games has that starting five played together? 5, even, debatably. They have been decimated by injuries this year, and I'm not sure if this team has the chemistry needed to have playoff success. We talked about the offseason that they had, all these great pickups, but it doesn't matter if those pickups don't have time to gel together. And I think we're going to see this Denver team struggle with their chemistry more than they have in recent years this playoffs. So I would take the Lakers. I would put them on a higher tier over them. Matched up, I do think I would take the Nuggets in a 7-game series, however. And I know that might not make sense to you. I just think the Nuggets are a really good matchup against the Lakers. But if the Lakers can avoid the Nuggets, I think they have a better chance of winning a championship, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I understand you there. I feel like my tier list goes like Thunder, Spurs in the top, Nuggets right below them by themselves, and then Lakers right below the Nuggets. That's kind of like how my mind is working with these. So I feel like you're just flipping the Lakers and Nuggets, essentially. But Jokic, oh my God, the numbers he would put up in a 7-game series against the Lakers would be hilarious. Oh my God.
What are video game numbers?
Bro would be averaging like
2K my career.
He would be averaging like a 30-20-10 triple-double. Like, that's what I feel like he would be doing to DeAndre Ayton and Jackson Hayes.
That's like bare minimum. It could be 30-20-15.
Yeah, that is.
It could be 40-20-15.
That is probably the worst matchup possible.
Chicken, as Shaq said.
The barbecue chicken wouldn't even begin to describe what Jokic would do to the Lakers.
This is like Thanksgiving buffet.
Like some guys,
Christmas Day feast.
Like DeAndre Ayton would be considering retirement at halftime of these games, having to guard Jokic. Like that's what would be happening here.
Yeah, and that's why I think the Nuggets are a great matchup if they were to take the Lakers. But like I said, the fact Luka Doncic is playing the way he is right now, I have to take the Lakers. Just want to ask you a quick question on where you have the Timberwolves. Because they made the last 2 Western Conference Finals. They're right in the thick of it in the home court advantage race in the West. Where do you have the Timberwolves in your contender tiers?
Probably, this Ant injury is kind of concerning to me. If they don't have Ant, they're a first-round exit. If they have Ant, though, like, I see how you see the Lakers, like, Luka is good enough to carry this team. That's kind of how I see the Timberwolves. Like, Ant is good enough to carry this team to the conference finals, right? We've seen that before. I like their starting 5 is really good. And Naz Reid off the bench is really good. Other than that, though, I feel like they will struggle to keep up with some of these other teams. So I see them on the same tier as the Lakers, but I would take the Lakers over the Timberwolves as contenders because Luka is playing better than Ant and Ant's health, all that. The one team I'm really concerned with is the Rockets. I think they're cooked for the playoffs.
They're pretenders. Yeah, pretenders.
Like I wouldn't even
first round exit.
Like I wouldn't even call them a pretender. Like I don't even think they're in a contender spot. Like other than Kevin Durant and the occasional Alperen Şengün game, they have no offense whatsoever. Not like zero offense. And I thought Reed Shepherd was going to give him a punch, but he's been in one of the worst shooting slumps I've ever seen in the last couple games. He's like 4 of 28 from threes last 2 games or 3 games. So yeah, the Rockets I'm really concerned about. The Timberwolves I'm concerned about Ant's health, but it seems as though they're saving him for the playoffs, which again, clap it up for them. That's good. And then the top 4 teams, again, like you said, it's all about matchups. And I hope Denver's healthy too, because you didn't even mention Peyton Watson, who was having a breakout year too before he got hurt.
Yeah, true.
So, like, Denver's roster is ridiculously good if they can just stay healthy. And I hope we see a fully healthy version of them at some point the rest of the way.
Yeah, a healthy Denver is a contender, but we haven't seen a healthy Denver basically all season, which is why I'm officially calling the pretenders. The Timberwolves, I also think, are pretenders. Luka is good enough to win 4 games out of 7 against the Thunder and the Spurs. I don't think Anthony Edwards is, even if he's healthy. He's great. He is not playing at the level that Luka Doncic is right now. I think there's a tier separating the two. So I think the Nuggets and the Timberwolves officially pretenders. I think the 3 contenders in the West are the Thunder, Spurs, and Lakers.
Yeah, and I would just switch Lakers with Nuggets and then Lakers question mark, because I'm not going to let myself fall into the trap of recency bias when I know this roster is shit. It is awful. And it's so bad.
I gave you that.
It's so bad.
It's terrible.
It's so bad.
But this is Luka Doncic averaging 40 points and 2.5
I know. But the playoffs are a different beast, and he's going to be playing teams of a much better caliber.
Let's say the Lakers. Right now they finish. Their record is 47-15, I believe.
I think they're third right now in the standings.
26, sorry,
I think.
Yeah, 47-26. I was looking at the wrong number. 47-26 are the official. They're not going to catch San Antonio. They're 8 games behind. But the Lakers have. Let's do some quick math here. 73 games to end are the Lakers. They have 9 games left. Wow, we are so close to the playoffs. I didn't realize we were that close.
Couple
9
weeks.
games left for the Lakers. If they win 8 of their last 9, they finish with 55 wins. Do you think Luka has a louder MVP case?
Yeah, louder. Yeah, he's still not going to win it over Wemby or Shea. And I still
even at 55 wins.
Yeah,
you don't think so?
No, I don't think so. Like you said, it's a full body of work. The first half of the season, Luka was not. I mean, he was in the MVP discussion, but he was nowhere near the top. Cade was higher than him. Jokic was higher than him. Giannis was higher than him. Wemby was on the same level as him. So I just feel like there's been some separation there. He'll have a stronger case for sure, but no, I don't think there's a chance Luka wins the MVP this year unless Shea and Wemby miss the games requirement. I guess that's the only chance.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Shea and Wemby, I think, are both closer to the games requirement than Luka. So obviously, knock on wood that neither of them get hurt. But I do think that is Luka's only case. Because like you said, it is a whole body of work. As good as he's been for the last 15 games, and in my opinion, all of 2026, he did not start off this NBA season playing at the level that we expect from Luka. And I think at the end of the day, that's going to cost him the awards. But he's on a tear right now, man. He's been the best player in the league the last 15 games.
Yeah, he's been crazy. And again, I just hope they're not peaking too early. They're playing really good right now. And I've seen it with a lot of teams before that peak way too early. Perfect example, the Rockets in the Warriors era that peak in the regular season or the first round, and then they meet a team that they think they're on the level of because of record, and they're just not.
Anything else in the Western Conference you want to mention before we get to our last segment?
No. That's all I wanted to touch on.
All right, let's get right to it. We have another Sporkle quiz for you guys today. Today, me and Max will be trying to name all of the NBA's MVPs in their history. So, Max, let me know if you can see the screen.
Yep, we gotcha.
All right, sounds good. So here we have the first NBA MVP from 1955 and 56, all the way into the most recent 2024 and 25, the Oklahoma City Thunder. We're going to see how many of these we can name in 7 minutes. I think we can name all 70.
I think we can.
That's my goal, at least.
My goal, I think, is to get 60. I don't know about you, but I'm not going to be able to help you with, like, the left side to me. I'm going to give about 30%. That's
But the left side also has a lot of repeats, right? There were a lot more
Yeah.
repeat MVPs in previous
True.
years than there were now. So we put one name, you could take up 3 or 4 of them.
I do like how it tells you the team though. That's a good little hint. I do appreciate that.
All right, Max, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Do you want to do the same thing where we just shout names, kind of same strategy?
Yeah, I mean, I know the last like 15. You just shout them out. I'll just type them in.
Yeah. All right, I'm ready.
And once we get to one you're stuck on, we'll take a moment and reconvene.
Yeah.
All right, 3, 2, 1.
So LeBron. Let's go LeBron because he won multiple.
Okay, not LeBron. James.
Steph won multiple.
Yeah. Yeah. Giannis.
Durant won one.
Durant, and then Westbrook and Harden.
Yep. Very
okay,
good.
Bulls was Derrick Rose. Lakers was Bryant.
Kobe. Shaq. Shaq won a couple for sure.
Yeah, Steve Nash, and then Nowitzki with the Mavericks, and then I'm putting in Shaq.
Duncan.
Yeah, Duncan, and then Kevin Garnett was Timberwolves.
Yep. Sixers.
Allen Iverson was Sixers.
AI, yeah.
Malone was Jazz. Wow. Oh, Moses Malone.
Michael Jordan.
Yep. Yeah. David Robinson.
Hakeem Houston definitely won one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Suns would have been
Charles Barkley. Or Charles won an MVP.
Yeah, he did.
Okay.
Lakers, Magic, Kareem definitely
won 3 in a row.
Definitely Kareem won a couple, right?
Yeah. Would it be under Al Sindor? Okay, that works.
Oh my God! What a pull! What a pull from a kid. Dr. J definitely won one, I think.
Yes, that's a good call. What about the Iceman, George Gervin? Okay, never won an MVP. Right.
Trailblazers.
Who won from Portland?
Drexler.
Bob Pettit won with the Hawks.
Drexler.
Nope, Drexler never won. Who won with Portland? Bill Walton.
Good pull.
Buffalo Braves was McAdoo.
Yeah, I never would have got that. Celtics
Russell.
Oh, Bill Russell. Bill Russell had to win a couple.
Okay, that was a bunch of early ones. What about John Havlicek?
Havlicek might have won.
No, how do you spell Havlicek? Havlicek stole the ball. Did Cousy ever win one? Yes, Bob Cousy won one. Chamberlain had to have one.
The Knicks would have been Patrick Ewing. He definitely won one.
Nope, Ewing never won.
What?
Did Dominic Wilkins ever win one?
I don't think so.
Dominic Wilkins did not.
Who won for the Knicks?
No idea. We're at 66. We got 4. We need Royal. Wes Unseld won one. There we go. Baltimore Bullets. Bang.
Knicks in 1969, 1970. This is where like my time frames are just so off. Like.
Okay, I'm happy I got Unseld. I would have been pissed if I forgot that. Royals, Knicks, and Celtics. Who won for the Cincinnati Royals?
Knicks. I can't believe Ewing didn't win an MVP. Walt Frazier, he didn't win an MVP, right?
I don't think so. But it's worth a shot. Yeah, nah. I feel like I'm spelling Havlicek wrong. I feel like he did.
All right, I'm gonna look up how to spell Havlicek because I feel like if we're right, we should be able to get credit for that.
67 out of 70. We got 3. We can. Alex, use your brain. NBA history. I could not tell you anything about the Baltimore Bullets. Or that's not what we're going for. The Cincinnati Royals. Okay. We might be cooked here.
Okay, Havlicek. Are you ready? Havlicek. Yeah, you have it spelled right.
Okay,
right there.
That's how I've been spelling it. Okay. So, do you have any idea who could be? Just shout out names.
I mean, I feel like we should get this Celtics one right before, like.
Yeah. Okay. Bob Cousy was. It was 10 years after Bob Cousy.
What about
before Larry Bird?
Oh my God, who's that? Former Rockets coach.
What about Elgin Baylor? Fuck.
Good try. Who's that former Rockets coach?
David Thompson?
No, the white guy. Oh my God.
Mike D'Antoni?
Kevin McHale. Did he not win an MVP?
No, he did not.
Oh,
no, that's a good pull though. I think he's a Hall of Famer. That was a hell of a pull. I got Bill Walton already. That was.
Yeah. Bill
got
Russell.
Unseld, and I got Bob Pettit.
Like,
Okay, so I got.
who the hell?
I don't know.
On the
I think I'm out.
Knicks. Yeah, I'm not going to get the Royals. I'm trying to get the Knicks and the Celtics, though. Like, I will use these 2 minutes up and try. Oh, my God. Who else historically? Would it be cheating to look at the All-NBA 75 team?
Yes, it would be.
Dang
we gotta
it.
name this. We gotta know ball.
Dang it.
We need to know names. This is Celtics is gonna piss me off. Knicks, I do not think I would have ever really guessed that if it wasn't Patrick Ewing. Royals, I cannot.
Like, I couldn't even tell you if Ewing was the right time period, though. Like, I don't even know.
Oh, no. Ewing was 85. Ewing was the first draft lottery.
Yeah, so, like, we were way off on Ewing time period. Oh my God. These are, like, guys that aren't even alive today. Like, that's who we're trying to figure out right now.
Started with the Knicks in the 60s. Like, I thought the Knicks were, like, this poverty franchise until Patrick Ewing.
Yeah, you got Wilt. I was going to say, just try. I'm just thinking of, like, big names we haven't tried yet. God, this is so hard.
We got 90 seconds under.
I'm cool to give up if you are. Nothing's coming to my head.
Yeah. I'm gonna be pissed after seeing these names. I forgot Oscar Robertson. Okay, I would have never got Willis Reed and Dave Cohen's. Oscar Robertson was a bad miss.
Yeah, however, low-key, I feel like if it didn't say Cincinnati Royals, we could have got there a lot quicker.
Okay, you know what? 67 out of 70. That's a solid run.
Look at
you wanted 60 out of 70.
Look at the average.
We did pretty good.
Look at the average. We smoked. We smoked
it. We are above average. Look at that. Albert Einstein called. He wants his brain back. Let's go.
96% is pretty solid.
Yeah, we should have got Oscar Robertson. The other two,
Willis Reed and
Willis
Dave.
Reed. I've heard of him. I didn't know he won an MVP. I have never heard of Dave Cohen's in my life.
No, neither have I. He must not.
I don't know ball. Maybe I.
No, I don't know who Dave Cohen's is either. To be quite honest with you.
Yeah. Sorry, Dave Cohen's, if you're alive and stumbling across this. Years ago.
He's probably
never disrespect you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. That happened in 1970. But that'll wrap up this episode of the Hoopers Lounge podcast. We hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave a comment down below to let us know what you guys think of our Contender Pretender segment and what you agree, disagree with, and who your contenders and pretenders are. We would love to hear from y'all. And until next time, we got some great Sweet 16 games tonight that I'll for sure be watching. We'll see you guys then.
Peace out.